Hello, it's me, Annalisa, with my spiritual friend. It is Sunday, the 24th. Sorry. I'm sorry, I'm a couple minutes later than normal. I had to shower, and then my kids were like, wait, Mom, I have to talk to you. I'm like, I have to go. Okay, Allie, we'll see you in 25 minutes. Oh, I'm so glad you had fun in Ireland. You know what? You're the second person I know that was in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day. One of the moms that I'm friendly with, she was there too. I'm opening up my PayPal to see who's. Okay. I've got. I think it's not. I'm trying to remember your first name. Please forgive me. Sometimes it's hard for me to remember what you use on. Okay. I don't know if you want your PayPal name on there. So that's why I'm like, it's the initials for the PayPal are ST. It looks like more of a businessy one. Hi, Allie. I don't know. You're asking about pregnancy. I can't remember what your screen name is. Please forgive me for that. I opened it up and read your question. This isn't the one I want. Hang on. Maybe it is. Yeah, Regine, Amy, Allie, and Layla. Okay, thank you. I don't know why I wanted to say Ashley, but I think it's the last name was I was thinking, but it's Akhtari. Okay. Okay. All right. So we got Layla first. And then I have Regine. And then I have Amy and then Allie. So by the time we get to Amy or Allie, she'll be back maybe. Okay, doke. And then whoever else wants to show up will show up. So in case any of you are curious, and I'm saving this for anybody who shows up and watches this later or whatever, I opened up a psychic development circle. It starts April 12th. It runs 5 weeks. It's on Friday evenings. It starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. It'll run till approximately 8 o'clock. It may be a little bit shorter, but it is a limit of 8 people. I already have somebody signed up. I'm manifesting for it to be full, but it's 8 people, only 8 people, because that gives me a chance to really help you develop your own ability. It is not a lecture series. It is a participating, active, practicing series. It doesn't matter if you've never given a reading or if you've never connected with your intuition. It's beginner friendly. It's advanced friendly because it meets you where you're at. How is that possible? It's possible when you know how to teach. So we offer chances for you to give and receive readings. You'll get there, don't worry. And it's also going to be a little bit focused on self-concept this time, because since the last time I had a development circle, I've really kind of understood how deeply connected your own growth and development, your intuition is connected to your self-concept. Like I was telling somebody about it, a friend of mine, we were talking and he's like, so what's new? And I said, well, I'm going to open up the circle. He's like, well, what does that entail? And I said, the first day is always the hardest. The first week will be the hardest. So then after that, it's a breeze. And you learn to connect into your intuition. And it sort of also helps you find your voice, because I show you to trust yourself and to feel more empowered as we're doing this. I'm going to send you home with a little bit of homework this time. I haven't done that before. And I'm also going to create 1 or 2 meditations, maybe more. We'll see how crazy I get about it, for you to be able to use to also kind of help connect in and develop and set intentions and all of that stuff. So that's that. You can find that on my website. And that is linked below, but it's also on my website. If you go directly to my website, it's under Zoom events, because it's a Zoom event and you pay through PayPal. It's the way it's set up. With payment, it'll say pay deposit, pay full. It's just because it's the way it's set up since I'm my own web developer, like it's just the way it's set up kind of weird. It was the quickest way I could figure it out. Because I was having an issue with the other payment system that I need to do other work on, but like it's like a whole lot of stuff. So it was the quickest, easiest way for me to do it. So if you see that, you're like, that makes no sense. It's because there is no deposit. You have to pay in full. But I will, if you change your mind and, before we start, things like that, and, give me time to help replace you because it's a small business, I'm happy to refund you. Okay, that's that. Layla, let's look at you. So I've always said I am not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a financial advisor. If you need one of those, seek those. And your doctors are all saying, several of them, like it's like you should have, I'm assuming it's a D&C is what they're going to do for you. I would follow that advice because no matter what I feel, like you have to do that, right? Hi, Ashley. That said, I don't think that you're never ever going to get pregnant. That's like, I don't think that's it. But I do think that there's I want to look at it from a different way than the way you're looking at it. You're looking at it as like pregnant. I want to get pregnant. I want to have a baby, blah, blah, blah. I want to look at it as what's going on in your body that's creating a stopgap there where it's like not happening. So I think I said before there was a progesterone issue. There's a part of me as I was like thinking about this because I got your question early. Hi, Regine. If there's not, another inflammatory process going on, I heard something interesting the other day, and I don't feel like you're overweight. So I want to say that, but I thought this was interesting, and I'm wondering if there's like, not even wondering, I have a feeling the back end way to like fix it kind of. So, there's no hard data on it, but there's a lot of people coming up and saying, when I started, I had fertility issues for years and years and years. And when I started on, I can't remember which GLP-1 it is. I don't know if it's Wegovy or if it's the O1. I forget what the other one is. There's another one, but that they stopped having fertility issues. So there's a whole host of things that are comorbid to each other. Like, it's such a tangle of things. It's like, I'm like, okay, so there's the MTHFR gene mutation, which is that you don't absorb B vitamins well. So this is something, Ozempic. Yes, thank you so much. I'm like, I know there's an O1 there somewhere. So a lot of these women are coming back saying like, I was infertile for years and years and years, and now I'm pregnant. And like, they're like 20 weeks along or whatever already, or 26 weeks along. So my feeling is that there's something in there with your body. Hi, Julia. There's something in there with your body that's worth looking at, right? So things that you can do from your end that don't necessarily need, what does a GLP-1 do? It basically helps with insulin resistance. From what I understand, now I could be totally wrong. If anybody else wants to come back and be like, you're fucking full of shit, feel free and leave a message and explain it to me. But from what I understand, it really does help with like insulin resistance and so like opening doorways and pathways that it hasn't before, which insulin resistance, pre-diabetes can affect cardiac issues and a whole host of other things. So this is my limited knowledge. I fully admit that. This is my feeling around it, is that there's an insulin resistance issue. There may or may not be an MTHFR gene mutation issue where you're not absorbing. So when you're taking your vitamins, make sure your vitamins have methylated folate and so it would be shown as L-methylfolate, blah, 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 blah. And then the other one is like methylcobalamin is the other one. I think that needs to be methylated. Because if you aren't able to methylate your folate because you have like let me back up. The synthetic version of folate is folic acid, which they tell you to take when you're trying to get pregnant, right? But if you're not taking the right one, then that's not going to help. It also affects your gut. It also affects, like, if you aren't able to like absorb folate or whatever, your B vitamins are really necessary for your brain. So you might have foggy brain, anxiety, things like that. So these are all like really, really important vitamins, right? And again, I am not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist or anything else. This is just me doing research and figuring out stuff for my own body. That's sort of like, I'm like, oh, I see a lot of this and other things. And there's like a lot of interconnections between things, right? So, but my feeling is like where I was like, when I was sitting there, I was like looking at that, I was like, that thought about the Ozempic and like people getting pregnant, I was like, maybe there's something to that with her. Like it was just a feeling of like connecting it with you when you asked that. Because I do feel like you'll get pregnant. All of that can affect your progesterone levels. It can also like cause you to have higher estrogen levels. There's also like an element of like PCOS, and like all of these things are actually interconnected. I saw something this morning about the actual gene, the 4 gene mutations that it could be that are connected with that, and endometriosis and PCOS and MCAS, which is mast cell activation syndrome, and histamine intolerance, Hashimoto's. There's a couple of other things. My feeling is on your end, so do the DNC, like go in and do what your doctors are telling you to do, because again, I'm not a doctor. And if all of their equipment is saying that, then go with that. Like my feelings can sometimes be just slightly in the future. They're not okay. My other feeling is like looking at starting eating for insulin resistance. So make sure you're getting, I'm not ready. I'm not yet at in vitro, but so here's the thing. I think that my feeling is that this is what's going to happen. I will never tell you what you should do, right? Except for I'm kind of mentioning the diet stuff, because I think these are things that are beneficial. I know what I'm rambling about is not getting there. I haven't gotten to my point yet. I apologize. I like details. So I feel like you'll start the in vitro path, but get pregnant before you actually need it. So like researching the doctors and like meeting with them and seeing if you're a candidate and all that stuff. And it feels like right before you go in to start, you'll end up actually being pregnant, is my feeling is what's going to happen. In the meantime, which will help you whether you do, if you decide to go in vitro anyway, because this is about getting your body ready and removing as much inflammation as possible. Making sure you have methylated B vitamins. Drink lots of water, obviously. Lots of green leafy vegetables, looking at getting as much fiber in your diet as possible. And so you want to looking at your fiber and your protein intake. Don't worry about like the fats. Don't worry about like, the carbohydrates, because that'll balance it out. Because once you're full with the fiber, any of the carbohydrates will sort of balance out with that. You won't be hungry for all of the sugary, all of that stuff. You just won't have that in you. Walking every day like helps with your insulin resistance, believe it or not. Even just 10 minutes after a meal or 5 minutes after a meal will help you balance that. Hi, Lexi. But it's like those things really feel really important. Do you have PCOS? I really believe it could be. His insulin resistance could be related to his sperm too. Not yours, his. Here's the thing, if you're getting pregnant, like everybody's always like focuses on the woman, but the man should be ready too. Like his body should be in check as well. So have him do this diet along with you. It's not going to hurt him for sure. And it's not really like, for me, I'm like, this is not a diet. This is a lifestyle. And it's a lot easier than like, a lot of times I actually have to add calories in because I'm so full and comfortable when I get enough fiber and protein in my diet that I'm not really that hungry for more, but my body needs to, just for maintenance of like respiratory processes and cardiac processes and brain function, everything else, you need a little bit more. So it's like you want to eat healthy fats, try and stay away from any inflammatory oils like canola and cottonseed and that. So like avocado oil is good. Olive oil is good. But a lot of those are mixed and cut and all that, so you have to make sure that you're getting good brands. Just research, like really and truly, just research a lot of it. It's not like I'm like a rocket scientist or anything. I just read. I like to read a lot, and I kind of go down these like little like rabbit holes, and then I think about my body, and I think about my medical history, and I think about how things showed up on my body. I'm like, oh, that's like when people are like, you can't self-diagnose. I'm like, you kind of can, believe it or not, but you also have to be not in this panicky state. You have to just really be observant. Like, how is your body? What's your history like? Are you a good historian? If you're not, and you're just into like, oh my God, and all these crazy things happen, where I'm like, okay, well, if have you been diagnosed? You don't know if you've been diagnosed with PCOS. I think I have it, and doctors missed it because doctors aren't given the time to really listen to you, and they're not really connecting all of the dots. But when you're focused on yourself, you can connect dots. What if you are? So if you do have PCOS, I highly recommend eating for insulin resistance, because there's a huge part to that, and living a lifestyle for insulin resistance. So it's like decreasing the amounts of inflammatory foods in your diet. So you want to eat really clean and healthy. So cook at home. Anytime you're going to go out to eat at a restaurant, eat something that's like where they're, it's like where they're not adding in a lot of oils and things like that, unless it's like specifically says olive oil. Butter is fine. I know that people freak out about dairy and butter and things like that, but that's better for you than canola oil or whatever. So like if I were to go out to a restaurant, I would try and look for, if I can, I honestly would eat a steak, and I usually I'll get a steamed broccoli and a potato, because that's usually on there, a baked potato. There's nothing wrong with potatoes. Like, they're not evil. They're not bad. There's nothing like when people are like, oh my God, carbohydrates. There's nothing, just like, but eating is decreased as little inflammatory foods. And I have histamine intolerance, which means I can't even eat. Like right now I'm on a super low histamine diet. So it's like, I can't have tomatoes. I can't have vinegar. I can't have spinach. So like things that are healthy, I can't have. Pretty much all herbs and seasonings are fine. But there's a ton of foods that are like off limits for me, but there are foods that I can make and I'm fine with. But it also means because of things like tomatoes, I can't, and no wheat. Wheat is off limits, and I would actually cut wheat out of your diet for sure. And it just feels like eating as clean as possible and decreasing as much inflammation, getting enough sleep, drinking water, eating for insulin resistance. So make sure you're getting a lot of fiber, which can be leafy green vegetables. Apples are high in fiber. Just go research it. I promise you'll find it. You can add fiber in, like as a supplement. And research symptoms of PCOS. It will help you if you start looking at that, just to see if it fits with your thing. But that was the feeling for me. It was like, this isn't it's an impossible thing, but it is finding balance in your body, which will help to it. And it feels like then once I'm doing that and getting like good rest and like really kind of maintaining that, I get pregnant right before I'm supposed to start all of this stuff. And then it's like a non-issue. That's the feeling I get. So it's like, I can't go, well, you should go do IVF, because it's like there's stuff in between it. It's not just I don't think it's egg quality at all. I think there's an inflammatory process going on in your body, which is like not allowing you to maintain a pregnancy. But I don't think it's egg quality. My grandmother on my dad's side had her last baby at 43. My cousin on my mom's side had her last baby at 43. She started at 38. So you don't have to be. So stop scaring yourself. It may just be one kid that you have, I just want to say, or one pregnancy. I'm saying one. That's what I keep saying is one. But that's not a bad thing. Okay. You're very welcome. All right. Regine, I think you're up next. What are your questions? So for anybody that's been on here since before I started, if you missed it, I opened up a psychic development circle, and it starts April 12th, and it will be a limit of 8 people. It is a 5-week series. It is focused on, so you can be a brand new baby to developing your intuition and your psychic side. It's not because I want everybody to become readers, but I think that your intuition is so incredibly important for your daily life. And so we're going to focus on that, like helping you develop it, helping you know how it comes in. And again, you can be any level. It doesn't matter. It meets you where you're at. And we're also going to focus on self-concept as a part of that. So I'll have some affirmations for you to look at. You can use them as journal prompts, and a meditation or two that I'm going to have you be able to link into and do in between the meetings. Because self-concept, the thing that I've learned through teaching a few of these courses now is that, number one, they really do kind of help you find your voice in a way. They kind of empower you because you learn to trust what's coming through. Because like when people are like, well, could it be, when I first started doing readings, I'd be like, well, I guess so, because I really wasn't sure. And what I learned through my own readings and through really teaching is that what you get is what you get. Like, it's not like how I get things are specifically for me. So when people go, well, this is what this means, it's like, no, that's what it means for you. Now, if somebody chooses to assign that meaning to that thing, then that's for them. So it really empowers you to find, and to helps you find your own voice. And I've learned really from developing my self-concept how much greater my connection is with my intuition and how much more I trust it. So that's why I'm making that a really big component of it, because I think it's really important. I think this helps you find your voice. I noticed with women specifically, because we have a society that teaches women like not to trust yourself, because you're supposed to be a caregiver and you're supposed to be like just like take care of other people and like put your feelings aside, and like you can't have a bad feeling about a person because that makes you rude or judgmental. And so when women go to like place forward and be like, well, I got this, they're much more reticent to do so, where men are just like, well, this is what I get. Like, and there's no hesitation to just trust what they're getting. And so this sort of really helps you kind of connect in with that part of you that trusts yourself. Okay. I have some money put aside for the laundromat, but I am going to need more. I applied for grants. How do you see me getting more money to be prepared for this purchase? I see maybe one grant. I actually see somebody giving you a little bit of money, like a family member or somebody just being like, well, here, get it started and pay me back when you have it, without needing any. They don't want any interest in the business or anything like that. They just want to help. And I also do feel like a little bit of going to a bank and having a business plan and kind of setting that out to get a little bit of a loan. That's what I feel. Yawn. Sorry. I've been averaging less than 6 hours of sleep every night for the last like 3 weeks because my kids are sick, and then they all wake me up. Doesn't matter. I am the sole parent. I am the primary. Not the sole parent, but I'm like their go-to person. So I'm talking to them about like, Mom needs some sleep, because they're all old enough. But sometimes my little one wakes up and she's like, I just really want you next to me. I just want to snuggle with you, which, I'm a sucker. So I'm like, okay. But then like in her bed, I can only lay like one way. I can't move at all. You'll ask the second question later. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Amy, if you want to ask your question, we'll see if anyone else has purchased a reading. Okay. Rothka, I got you. You left it, Amy. So I left Grace yoga class. What is she thinking, feeling? you're asking for tea. Okay, but giving me no date and telling me she's thinking of me and to take care in the meantime. Wait, like no, like she didn't ask for a date yet. Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. She didn't give you a date to meet up. She's not ready yet. Relax. Okay, we're going back into manifestation mode, right? So I'm going to make you ask a different question. I'm going to making you, because this is a manifestation question. This is not, I'm not doing psychic medium on this because I really want you to push in and develop like I can create this. Because this would be great practice for you. Okay. So do you know Neville Goddard? Have you listened to any of Neville Goddard? You've been doing this all the time. Right. But what are you doing? Because I think there's still a part of you, because if you're coming to me asking me for this, that means there's still a part of you that doubts it. So like, I'm going to tell you examples for me. So for this circle in the past, I would be like, oh, is it going to fill up? Am I going to have to fill it with like other people? So it's like, there was all these like things. And I would ask a friend, I'd be like, what do you think? Is it going to happen? Like, what do you see for numbers? Like there was all this doubt. And this time around, I'm like, no, it's going to be full. I'm fine. It's done. It's filled up. It's fine. It's done. And anytime there's that little bit of doubt in me, that's like, oh, but no, it's filled up. It's done. Because anytime I persist where I just decide like this is happening, whatever, it happens. So like those circus tickets, I was like, no, it's fine. It's done. They're filled up. And there was a part of me then last week that was like, because I haven't really filmed any TikTok videos. I've been like dead in there for the last 2 weeks because my kids have been sick every fucking day. Like, not that they want to be sick, but like my little one, again, is like, mommy, just sit with me. And I get it. She doesn't feel good. Like she just doesn't want to, but if you're trying to run a business, like you kind of have to like give a little bit to that. So you need to stop being like, I can't tell if she's interested in me. Just decide. You can like literally, you've got to listen to Neville Goddard. You have to look up Neville Goddard and listen to how it is. You literally just decide. This is how they're thinking about me. It's fine. Because until they say something, and even then when somebody says something, I had an instance with my husband where he's like, I'm not going to, and I was like, in my head, I just sat there and watched him, stared at him clearly. And I was like, no, in my head, I thought the true story is, and I made up the whole thing. And when he came home from work that day, I shit you not, or the next day, he was like, oh, so, and he said exactly what I said was going to happen. He was doing, that was his plan. This is what was going to happen. So even though the day before, and I didn't say anything, I didn't argue with him. I was like, I just looked at him and I was like, okay. But in my head, I was like, no, the true story is. So the true story is you're going to like literally do this. She does know you're interested, but the true story is you're going to go, the truth is she totally likes me. She's really attracted to me. Maybe she's like a little bit busy getting settled out. The truth is she's asking me on a date. It's fine. It's done. Like you just have to decide. And I know a lot of people are going like, that's crazy, whatever. Yeah. Well, it's just as crazy to think all the negative shit too. So don't just write it out. Like literally when you feel that little creep up in your mind where you're like, well, but maybe, like you were like, oh, let me just pay Anna for a question and find out if this is what it is. It's like, then you don't believe what you're writing. So you literally have to go like an adult would to a toddler. No, I told you this is the plan. I understand where you're at, but here's the deal. This is what's going to happen. You have to treat your subconscious brain, because your subconscious brain wants to go with what's comfortable. And if your whole life you've said, people aren't attracted to me, people don't like me, people don't want to be around me, I'm always the last choice, I'm never chosen, like people only pick me out of pity, whatever that is, then your subconscious goes, that's what I'm comfortable with. That's what I'm comfortable with. That's the groove that's already been made in the ground. That's the path that's already pros. That's the track that's already made. I don't want to have to build new tracks. Let's just do this because I can sleep my way through it. Okay. So then you're going to work on self-concept. So first of all, you're going to work on the I am confident. I don't give a shit what you're telling me. I get that you've lost it, but you're going to say, I'm confident. And we need to stop looking at when people are like, well, I've developed bipolar, so I'm terrible. Everything's horrible. I think I may be autistic. I could easily sit there and say these are the worst things ever, but it's not. It's just a difference. Because you think that I have this label on me, so I'm not valuable or worthy enough. It's just a label, darling. And it doesn't mean that the emotions aren't there. I'm not saying that it's not there, but I'm saying that you are still lovable being bipolar. You're still lovable. You're still worthy of love. You're still worthy of being attractive and accepted, and having somebody look at her and be like, yeah, she's bipolar. And I think she's the sexiest bitch I've ever seen. I don't call people bitches, by the way. Not really. Maybe you weren't meant to be in that teaching career. Maybe you're meant to be somewhere else. A lot of people who have really shitty things happen to them take that and they go, well, look at where I can help other people. I don't think you're going to not be working for a long time. I have to tell you that. I do feel like you're going to have money coming in. So if you look at this, I want you to look back at all the things you've typed. There's all kinds of self-concept stuff here. And that's why you don't feel, it's you can write she's attracted to me all you want, but you don't believe it. So that's why I tell people, you have to do the self-concept work. I'm telling you this because I had a career and I thought I wasn't enough or good enough because it was an associate's degree and it wasn't a bachelor's degree, and I didn't have my master's in nursing and all of that. I felt oh, that's not enough. I'm not good enough. And you know what? Fuck that. Yes, I am. Hi, Rockton. How are you? So what I'm telling you is I'm looking at all of this and I'm encouraging you heavily to do self-concept work. I'm not telling you not to think about her ever, but I would focus on self-concept work and then go back into trying to manifest her. Because it's not that you can't manifest a partner when you don't have an awesome self-concept. You can, but you're going to be working twice as hard to maintain that connection because you're going to be always fighting that. So it's start with your self-concept first. And this is how we did it. This is where I started with my self-concept. I started with listening to affirmations while I slept. And I started deciding that what followed I am was really, really, really important. And I can look at you're I'm not confident. I've lost confidence so that's an I am. I am bipolar. So then, and you have a reason why, then it's ruined everything. But what if, so I have a friend who, a year ago, I did a reading for her. And she's an astrologer. We, exchange readings and things like that. But I did a reading for her, and she was wanting to move out of state. And I was oh, I see. I think I said I saw May. And this is why I said this. But then, things kind of didn't work out and that didn't happen. And I was oh, I guess I was just wrong. I didn't really think much of it. I mean, I felt bad about it because I was I don't like being wrong because I don't like letting people down. Let's be honest. And then she ended up coming back to me just a couple of weeks ago. I was oh, I'm moving now to that place. And the thing is she had set because I was manifest it. She had set the intentions that she wanted it to happen a certain way where it didn't feel like she owed anybody. It wasn't a favor from somebody, but that it was a mutual exchange of her moving places. And she said to me, she's like, oh, well, where I'm at now, all of these, she's like, I feel like I'm cursed. I feel like all these terrible things are happening. And, is somebody doing black magic on me? And I was when she was first saying, I was like, I don't really believe in all of that. Like, I believe that if you believe in it, then it's possible. But I don't believe in all of that. I don't believe that anybody has that much power over anybody in that sense. Like, not in my world, not in my belief system. Nobody has that much power over me. And that's why I think some people that are like, that she knows that we know mutually don't like me that much because I'm not able to fall under the glamoury type whatever energy they're trying to put out there and have people connect to. Hi, Allie. Okay. So, she came back and she was like, well, I've been, money hasn't been that great, blah, blah, blah. And so now I'm going to do this now. And I said, listen, I don't think that that's from a curse. I think that's from a manifestation. What I feel like happened was you manifested that you want to do this. And under these certain circumstances, which is exactly how it's happening now, where you don't feel like you owe anybody anything. And if you had been making enough money and doing fine, you would have stayed exactly where you are. You wouldn't have made that leap. So it's like, sometimes when you're manifesting things or thinking about, dreaming about how you want things to be in the future, something will pop up and make something fall away, and it'll look bad, like losing your teaching job. But really, maybe that wasn't your destiny anyway. Maybe you had always dreamed of doing something else. It's like, but if you're stuck here, the universe will force a change so that you can get to that spot. I don't know if my rambling makes any sense. So I feel like I could have easily last week, and I know this is not in comparison to losing a job because of that, so I want to say that. I would say focus on yourself first and put her on the back burner for a month. Literally, don't even think about manifesting her at all for a month. Just focus on yourself. Just focus on your own self-concept. It doesn't mean that she's not going to come in. It just means it's okay to focus on yourself for just a month. But so last week I kind of worried, oh, I haven't posted anything. Now it's going to all fall apart, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm just going to decide that it doesn't matter if I take a break, that's just a part of it, bridge of incidents. And I'm still going to get to where I go. That's just a part of it. I'm not worried about it. So I could easily go to the doom and gloom spot, or I can just go, that's a part of the bridge of incidents of me getting to this place. And maybe it's delusional the way I think, but you know what? It's working out for me. So I don't know what to tell you. So focus on the self-concept work, put her on the back burner for a month. And when you're doing the focus, I want you to rewrite that. It's no, I am confident. I am confident. And if you can't say that with confidence, just be I can trust myself. Find other ways around it. I can trust myself because of X, Y, and Z. But I love myself. I'm likable. I'm lovable. I am loved. Those are important too, because you're most definitely lovable, regardless of what comes along with it. I mean, think of all of the people that are in relationships and are loved. You're lovable. Okay? I promise you, you're definitely lovable. What is now I want you to sit and think back on a question that you want answered. And because I think some of that information is good for everybody to hear. Think about a question you want answered, and then I'll look at it that way. That's not a manifestation question. That's because I know she'll come in and I know she's going to ask you out, but I really do feel like the self-concept stuff would really be beneficial for you. Again, it's Neville Goddard. You can listen to a lot of his stuff for free. You love my rambling. Thanks. So what I did was I got sleep headphones that were $20 from Amazon. They're a little sports band thing, whatever. They're cheap. Their sound is sort of shit, but you're sleeping, so it doesn't really matter. And what happens is when you do self-concept work, you'll push the muscle, somehow it'll stop or whatever, because your brain is no, we want to stay the same, but you just have to persist. You have to be really tenacious, just like you are with like either a terrier, dogs are like terrier dogs are like so fucking annoying. And you have to, no, no, like they're so like, I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to get what I want. And your subconscious is like that, or a toddler. And you sort of have to be like, stand strong and firm, be like, I get it. I hear where you're at. I understand that's frustrating. However, this is the direction we're moving and we just have to go there. Pay attention to what follows I am. And the minute you say something like, I'm not confident, you need to reframe that quickly. Not because like, oh my God, the world's going to, it's just like, catch it. Just like if you see a dog peeing, you don't want to scold him like an hour later. You want to catch it in the act. And that's when you scold him and be like, hey, no. And then you bring them outside, all of that. Like you want to catch them in the act because their brain doesn't, just like your subconscious doesn't go like, they won't go like, oh shit, I shouldn't have peed on the carpet an hour later. Or like, after an hour of it happening. So there's that. So write down your affirmation. First thing when you wake up in the morning, instead of like being like, I gotta affirm, just pay attention to what comes to your mind at first. So like for a long time, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And I was like, oh, and then I was like tired all day. And so then I decided I couldn't say I wasn't tired because I still felt tired. And I thought that that's just, my brain's not going to get past that. So instead of saying I'm not tired, I would say I'm ready for the day. So I would start my day like that. So sometimes it's paying attention. It's like, well, if I don't think I can get my brain to believe that, what's the workaround on that one that I could believe and could move me forward, but that doesn't focus on the negative, the thing that I don't want. So maybe you can't say I'm not confident and say, oh, I'm confident and believe it. So, but maybe you can say I'm worthy of being self-confident, or maybe I'm not confident about everything, but pick something you are confident about. Or you could say, maybe I'm not confident that X, Y, and Z can happen, but I do know X, Y, and Z can happen. Like it just starts to reframe it. And so then once you start look at your celebration, celebrate yourself. Look at the things that you are capable of. Look at all the strength that you do have. Start focusing on that too. Celebrate that as well, because then that sort of helps you get out of that funk of like, because this happened, I'm a terrible, horrible person. It's like, well, no, that just happened. Thank you so much. It's only because I've beaten up on myself for years. I'm just trying to pull myself out of it. And I am a like science nerd by nature, so I'm totally okay with being. I need that for paperwork for Stu. I'm totally okay with like experimenting and trying and failing at it. Like, well, that didn't fucking work, so let's try something new. Like, I'm okay with that process. I don't go like, oh, it didn't work. Like, this is terrible. It's like, okay, let's try something new, because there's always a workaround. Your brain will always. You can always find a little glitch in there. So if you want to take a minute and think, then I'll come back. Regine, you don't have a second question. Allie, what's your question? Will things between you and Liam get better? Do you have something going on with your throat? Because when I read that, I just felt really tight in my throat. Oh, no crying. It's okay to cry. Crying is cleansing, actually. I'm sending you a hug. Like energetically, I'm squeezing you. But not like, but like this. Sorry, I'm just still sending you that hug. I have to ask if you're okay first, like if you're better, because I can't get past that energetic hug. This sounds so weird. Like I literally saw you like kind of curling up in my lap and I was hugging you like a little girl. So like I'm like trying to ask about the lean part. I'm like, nope, you still need this hug. So I'm trying to get past that. Are you okay? You're really sad. I felt very overwhelmed a month ago. Okay. So I want to say that things will work out, but I'm not 100% sure that if he comes back in, it feels like he's on the periphery kind of, like he's not really as anymore. And my sense is that when that happens, when he's like on the periphery, you sort of see him with a different set of eyes. Um, you feel like a really bad person, or you feel did I read that right? You feel like a really bad person. You're not a really bad person. No one allowed us in here is allowed to disparage themselves anymore. I get like that's an honest thing to say. So it's okay to acknowledge the negative, but I also feel like um, I feel like if you were to really, if this was one of your friends, would you say that? Would you think even just pass judgment on them and be like, I don't feel like it's not that he's not okay with you. I just feel like there's a distance. Like I can't even fully connect with his energy. It feels distant to me. Um, and my feeling is that he's on the periphery. I don't feel like, and my feeling is that when he comes in again, you see it with a different set of eyes and see it as like, instead of like you're the really bad person, but that you see it differently. And it's like, oh, that's maybe I'm not a really bad person. Maybe is some fault on his part too, where I feel like you stop having him on this pedestal and you just see it with a clearer mind. Um, Ali, we've been talking about this for a long time too, the self-concept work. And it's not that I just think you'll see him differently. So I don't feel him coming back in and being like super, super close, but it's not because you're a bad person or because he thinks you're a bad person. Screw his opinion of you. I know that's easy to say, but one of the best gifts you can give to yourself is stop worrying about what other people think about you. I don't know that you'll become good friends again because I feel like it was sort of like a not a really healthy relationship. And I've lost friendships where a long time where I wondered like, oh, I wonder if we'll be friends again, like because I felt a loss there, right? And I felt, but now the more I look at it, I'm like, that really wasn't a really healthy friendship, and I'm okay without that person in my life. Because I have it with a different set of eyes. Like I can see where maybe I was a little bit more naive or I just saw them differently. I don't feel like you'll be good friends again, but I feel like it's just you'll see him differently where it's like, oh, there's some stuff there that I didn't notice before. I didn't put it together. And all of that's kind of interconnected. The anxiety, the worrying about, being the bad person and you did something to really, really wrong or whatever. I feel like I wasn't in tune with my feelings until now. Yeah. I mean, I don't, okay. I can't, like, what I said is what I said. So this is what I'm going to say. Like, I don't feel it happening. I feel like you should, I don't know. I hope you would do the self-concept work because again, look at what you're writing and you're claiming a whole bunch, like if what we say follows I am is really important, I'm claiming a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't suit me. I have anxiety. I'm not saying that anxiety is not real, but highlighting it and focusing on it doesn't help. So, like, I don't know what the situation was that happened, but I just feel like, again, I just feel like he's not totally innocent. He's not totally this like angel, wonderful person who didn't participate in that connection. My feeling is if you went back to him and were like, I'm so sorry, I was such a terrible person, blah, 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 blah. There might be a connection there. It won't be the same, A, and B, it also continues to fuel this bond that's not really healthy. I feel like it's not a healthy, even dynamic between the two of you. When you work on your self concept, I feel like you'll be able to look back and see that. As I've been working on my self concept and like even had some things kind of come up in coaching and just things she was saying, I was like, it hit me like a ton of bricks, like how being a former people pleaser really showed up in every single relationship of not feeling valuable and worthy of being seen, heard, or honored, celebrated, but like literally in every relationship, friendships, romantic, etc., family relationships. Those were really obvious though. And then when things went wrong with friendships or whatever, being like, oh, I need to make everything better and smooth everything over and like grovel at their feet for forgiveness, blah, 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 blah. When really, like, as I got healthier, I was like, oh, yeah, but this is kind of how they were showing up. And I don't know, I wouldn't want my kids to have friends like that. So it's okay to feel all those feelings and recognize all of the negative stuff, because that's sort of how you also then go, okay, and now this is how I move forward. Like, I don't want to say these things about myself. Like, I did something horribly wrong. I'm a really bad person. Like, those are things that we don't want to say about ourselves, because I don't think that unintentionally hurting somebody's feelings, or I get it, but you're not alone. You're not alone. I mean, here you're in a group of people that shows up every Sunday. I know it's not the same, but you're not alone. And I know that lonely feeling. I've been there, and I'm telling you, the self-concept work, and really, I cannot stress it to you enough, because of, like, I always repeat it and I always say it over and over and I sound like a broken record, but it makes a fucking difference. It truly does. Because then also you start to look at your friendships and you're like, maybe these friendships weren't so healthy. Maybe they weren't so good. Maybe do I really want to be attached to these people just so I can say I have friends? No. And then like healthier friendships start to come in. Absolutely, Julia. The saying of what's not for you won't go by you. It's true. And so when you look at the negative things that happen, you're like, why is that for me? It's not that the universe wants you to have negative things, but it's like when you have this belief system of I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough. And I never thought of things of being like, oh, I'm not worthy, but I thought about, I realized that there were stories that were told to me. So uh this is probably divulging a little bit more than I should, but um I lived with my parents got divorced when I was 6. I lived with my mom until I was 12. I was really, really lonely. My mom had to go back to work. She worked like 3 different, $5 an hour jobs. If it was $5, not 4.75, whatever minimum wage was back then. And she was trying to go back to school, and we were like poor, we were really poor. And my sisters were kids too. So, right, like they're not exactly parental, emotionally stable figures. So I was just really lonely. I spent a lot of time alone. Um, it wasn't that I didn't have friends, but because my mom was like not really available to be like the mommy mom, I didn't get invited to parties. I didn't get invited to a lot of stuff, like because they couldn't really have play dates at my house, right? So there wasn't an exchange. So I was sort of just like kind of ostracized in a way. And I don't think like, oh, she's a terrible kid, because I wasn't, but whatever. Though I heard stories, some parents, whatever. I wasn't a terrible kid. I was like, I went to school. I did my homework. I wasn't mean. I tried to stop fights, things like that. I was probably a little autistic anyway. um, so when I was 12, probably when I was 11, I started talking about it, but I was so desperately lonely. I was like, someone read for me once and they were like, I've never felt like a feeling of loneliness like this. And I was like, yeah, I just, whatever. Um, I had been talking to my father. I wanted to move in with my father because I just thought it was a change. At least maybe then I'd have like parental figures around. I didn't know it was like it was just when my daughter asked me this once, she was like, well, do you think it was better? I was like, it was just a different kind of yuck. It wasn't better. It was just a different kind of terrible. I wouldn't say my father and stepmother are exactly the most healthy emotional beings at all. There's a lot of manipulation there. And, my father had a temper and yelled all the time. And so, but when I chose to move in with him, he gave me the papers, like the legal papers to sign and give to my mom. Like, didn't tell me what they were. He said, just give these to your mom. So my mom was like, totally like, whatever. But then I had moved out, and my sister once, I was visiting because I would go to my mom's house then every other weekend. And my middle sister, was like, you can't have an opinion on anything anymore because you live with dad. And my mom never said anything about it. Like, she's like, well, I didn't say that was okay. I was like, no, but you also didn't tell her not to say that. So it just sort of reinforced that I wasn't allowed to have a voice. And when I realized like how that ties into your worth and yourself, and like never had birthday parties as a kid, like never had, we had like a family dinner or whatever, but I never had one with friends. I really wasn't invited to birthday parties. Like my parents forgot my birthday, several birthdays. Like there was a lot of like not celebrating me. I'm going to say that. So I have a hard time celebrating me as an adult. And I didn't tie that into like worth and value. So there's things that are going to come up where it's hard as you're doing self-concept work, when you really start thinking about, okay, maybe I didn't literally say this to myself, I'm not worthy, but how was I shown this? How did this show up in my life? It's hard to look at that. But here's the thing, you've survived the worst of it already. So now you just have to acknowledge that, like, yeah, that could have led to that, but that story is not true. They were unfortunate circumstances, but that story is not true. So as you work on yourself and like look at that, you can say like, you're valuable and you're worthy. But as long as we say like, I'm alone, I'm lonely, that keeps showing up in the world. As long as because it doesn't matter if somebody doesn't say to you, there's something wrong with this. Like there's a feeling around somebody. Think about when you're around people, there's a feeling around somebody who's magnetic and amazing and wonderful, or somebody who like really just like feels that they're not enough. No matter how much somebody outside of you tells you that you are, you're valuable and worthy, you will never believe it until you start telling it to yourself. So I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, but there's always going to be a reason in your head that you're going to say, That's not true. That's not justifiable because I know because everything else shows up this way. So you have to be lying. You can't be telling me the truth, Anna. You don't even know me. You've never even met me in person. How could you know? You're just saying that. There's always going to be part of your brain that's going to say that, that's give you an excuse for why what I'm telling you is not true, or anyone else for that matter. So you have to do this work. You have to go in and start reprogramming it. And it's hard to believe that it's possible because you haven't seen it be possible yet. I will tell you, like when people are like, do these affirmations for 7 days. Like, I'm like, that doesn't change shit. It might just start to perk you up, but that's not where the real work is. Just like when you have to start getting in shape and exercising and stuff, it's not going to be 28 days till you're in the shape that you want to be in. As I'm doing body recomp, it's taking months and months to really, like, I'm seeing the slimming effects, but I'm not seeing the weight change on the scale. So if you're taking one thing and saying, this is, see this happen. So that means if I just went by the scale, I'd be like, I'd give up on myself. You have to find other things to like measure. You can't just say like, see, this keeps happening. And so it's sometimes sad when we can't handle things better. Maybe you blew up at him, maybe because you didn't know how to express your emotions and you didn't know how to label your emotions and you didn't know how to like go, oh, I'm actually feeling really embarrassed or sad or neglected, or my feelings are hurt. Like sometimes it's like, it's such a silly thing to say, but simple thing to say, but like saying that really hurt my feelings is really hard to say sometimes if you're not comfortable with it. And I'm sorry to ramble about all my personal stuff, but I think like it took me a long time to realize all of these things, like how they impacted me and what the core message was. There's nothing wrong with you. You have a really deep core belief system that takes time to reprogram. And the fact of the matter is, okay, so here's my example of this. I learned how to drive when I was 15, got my license when I was 16. During those times, like lived in Wisconsin and Texas and always pumped my own gas. Could have done it in my sleep. I now live in New Jersey. I have lived in New Jersey since 2008. And then before that, I was in New York and I didn't drive my car much. And when I didn't have my car up here when I was in Manhattan. I have, in the last 18 years, I have pumped my gas maybe 3 or 4 times. Every time I have to do it, I have to really think about it. I have to like read the directions on how to do it. It's not something that I could have done in my sleep before, but it's not something that I practice every day now. So I have to like redo it. So you have to like do the work and then like maintain it. It's not something you're ever going to give up on. And because it's such a deep-seated belief system, you might fall away a little bit and be like, oh, no, this isn't where I'm at. This is what I'm doing now. So FYI, you're going to be doing the work for the rest of your life. You're going to be, no, I'm this, I'm that. And you may be like coast for a while and then have something hit where you're like, feeling sorry for myself, feeling really bad about myself, And you're like, no, going to reprogram that because I know how to fix that. I don't need that thought process in my life. And maybe it did go bad because you weren't speaking up. But I have a feeling there was a different kind of power dynamic and he benefited from you not speaking up and not fixing things. And maybe you started setting a boundary or two and then he got really mad. I had a friendship that I had to grieve and lost and was really sad. And then I look back and I realized I was like, she was getting mad at me because I was setting my own boundaries. Like she expected me to be one way. And then I was setting my own boundaries and it didn't work for her. And that's okay. I don't need that in my life. It was a lesson. She was a lesson. She was a season. People can care about you and still care about themselves more. Again, I really think once you do the self-concept work, you'll start to see it a little differently and be like, oh, maybe that dynamic was like not so great. I can be wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong. And you can tell me to go pound sand, and that's okay too. I will not hate you. Like my kids say to me, like, I hate you. And I'm like, I still love you. Well, you can hate me all you want. I will still love you no matter what. Like, so grieve that loss, but then promise me and promise yourself that that's okay. But I'm going to say this, you're being probably overly critical of yourself. Because you're like, I did wrong too. Like, yeah, people fuck up in relationships. People say things that are kind of shitty sometimes. People act out of emotional response. It's the recovery that matters. And so how are you recovering from that? And I'm not talking about abusive, really horrible behavior, but I'm talking about just like people say bonehead things sometimes, but how are you recovering from it? And I have a feeling you're going to look back at this relationship and look at it very differently when you're doing the self-concept work. So promise me you keep doing the self-concept work, because something hasn't clicked yet when you're still being so hard on yourself. I look at it, if this was a friend, how would you really look at that behavior? A girlfriend, not a guy friend. Would you really be like, that was really horrible what I did? Or would you be like, well, yeah, it wasn't great, but like also not a horrible person? Could you have handled it differently? Sure. Sit down and write, how could I have handled this differently? Something that happened to me that was like my daughter, I don't remember what it was about anymore. She was like upset. And I think I snapped at her or something, did something, not like terrible. Just like I was not really honoring her emotional needs in the moment. And I was like, let's get to school. And my old me would have said like, oh, I'm such a horrible mother. And I would have felt like terrible. And I would have sat in guilt. And for 1 second I said, oh, I'm horrible. And then I was like, but it didn't feel like that fit energetically. I was like, no, I'm not. Okay. What could I have done differently? And what could I do next time? And then we talked about it. I said, hey, this is what happened. I left you and this is what I thought about. What could I do differently next time? So next time, this is my plan. And what my kids actually really love that I'm thinking about that, or I'm listening, or I said, hey, I remember one time there's something I listened to a lady. I can't remember what she said. Oh, it was like when kids throw tantrums, like, because they can't have something. It's just, they're just really disappointed that they can't have that. Like, they're not trying to necessarily manipulate you or whatever. It's just this like extreme sadness. They have no way of like expressing that. And I was telling my older daughter that, and she's like, oh, I really like that person. I mean, it's just nice for people to know that you're, like your kids too, that you're doing the work. They're not expecting you to be perfect. Same thing with your friends. Are you doing the work? And you can figure it out. So that's why I want you to change it. I can figure these things out. It may take me more time. It may be a little bit of work. I can figure this out. You're not dumb. You don't have something wrong with your brain. You're perfectly capable of it. I know that about you. And you're not going to be perfect in life. You're human. So find forgiveness for that. Okay? I didn't do that right. How could I do better next time? And next time may not be with Liam. Next time maybe with somebody else. And really, like, if you don't know how to name them in the moment, look back at past situations and be like, what did I really feel? Because now you're kind of out of that feeling. So you can look at it more objectively. What did I really feel there? How would I name that this time? Well, what would I do differently? Because those situations can come up again and you'll handle them differently. And you find that as you start to name and start to communicate better, it makes it easier to have relationships with people. Unless, of course, it's somebody who like literally just doesn't want to meet you where you're at. And then that's time to move on from those people. Okay, I'm moving on from this though, Allie. So I gave you your answer and a whole bunch of pep talk. Okay, because we're at an hour and I'm like, okay, Rothka, what's your question? You're very welcome. And some of this also might be like planetary, like funky stuff coming up too. You might be more affected by some of these moon changes coming up. There's a eclipse of the moon tomorrow. So I don't know, research that too. I'd love just a general reading. It'd help to know most now. Lots of transitions happening, stuff, life purposes. Oh, by the way, I didn't respond to your put an offer in. Yesterday was my middle daughter's birthday party, and it was earlier in the day, and we still had to put together all the little gift bags because last minute is the way I roll. I was a little bit of a procrastinator, and I stayed up. I needed to go to the store to I'd baked the cupcakes on Friday during the day while everybody's at school. And I thought, when I pick up at school, I'll run to Michael's quick because there was something I needed to get for part of the decoration on the cupcakes. They were chickens. I made them look like little chickens. Let me see. I have a picture I can show you guys. And I needed the eyeballs because I'm trying to use natural dye colors, and I didn't want to buy black dye, but I found little candy eyeballs, which have not natural eye colors, but like, they were so tiny. Let me see, where are my pictures? Pictures of them where? So I made, let's see, where's the right way? Okay, these are let me see. Hang on, let me do a lock screen so that way it doesn't spin on you. Okay. Hi, KK. Chicken, the vanilla chicken cupcakes. Then I'm just, silly, whatever, proud of them. These are the chocolate chicken cupcakes. So I stayed up. Anyway, so she had her party anyway. That's why I didn't answer. I don't know why I keep rambling about shit that doesn't matter. So she was like, loves chickens. She won't even eat chicken anymore. She loves chicken so much. And we had like chicken decorations. The kids had all like chicken, like party favors. They tasted really good too, I have to tell you. So anyway, but it was like earlier in the day, and then I was just like wiped because I haven't been sleeping well and everything else, and I just forgot to answer. So, all right. So you want a general reading? Okay. I'm just looking at the house right now because that's like the most recent. This second one, I feel like you're not in as love with it as the other one. It's interesting to me because it's like so there's this, I heard you got the house, but then on the same token, I feel not great about it. Thank you, KK. I feel not great about it. I feel like I don't know if something will fall through. Like when you get the inspection, it's like there's something issue. I keep hearing mud. I don't know what that means. I almost feel like there's going to be a third house, and that's the one you move into. Does that resonate when I say like the energy like doesn't feel awesome about this house? Like it's definitely feels like a consolation prize. It doesn't feel like this is amazing. Laura, I got your present. Got your payment. Okay, good to know. We think we got it and it's decent. The inspection is coming up, so to be finalized. Is it, but it doesn't feel like, I just feel like I'm settling. I don't feel like great about it. Not that it's terrible, but there's just something where I energetically don't feel like, and maybe it's your spouse's energy I'm feeling around it. Not as big. Yeah, I felt that. It's a little bit settling. It's nice, but not as quirky as the other. Yeah. Um, I mean, I'm happy to be wrong and say you get this house and it's done, but I almost feel like there might be a third one. I mean, we put an offer on a house and we were like in through the inspection and everything else. And then there was some stuff that um, they didn't want to do mold remediation. It's like there was a lot of stuff we were already willing to take a, like, a hit on, like some plumbing issues and some electrical issues. And then they're like, they wouldn't do mold remediation. We're like, we're leaving. And we got this house. And this house is probably better because the other one was like, just the land wise, like held more water. We're more on a hill here. Move in ready is if nothing is up with the inspection, which remains to be seen. So I don't know why there's something about mud, and I'm not even sure what this is, like what like I'm seeing. So I don't know exactly how to say what I'm seeing is, but it's a feeling of mud. So I don't know what that means. Maybe there's not great drainage. I'm not 100% sure. Um, So my feeling is around all the transition stuff. You're like with all the transitions and everything, and they're sort of like you're actually better off than you think you are. It's more of looking at it with a sense of like just one step at a time rather than like, oh my God, I've got to jump into the deep end. It's like they're like, no, just baby step it. Just baby step it. Um, like yes, it's a lot to think of becoming a homeowner and dealing with all of that. But I feel like I know it sounds weird, but it's like it doesn't feel like it's going to be much different for you, budgeting wise and everything else. I feel like you're going to be okay with that. It's just the idea of it is overwhelming rather than the actual process of it. So keep that in mind that it's like sometimes our brains are making things bigger than they are. Um, so and they're like, again, this is like maybe some of this rambling was for everybody. So some of that, like where you're like, oh, I'm feeling low, like this isn't doing is what I wanted to do. And this is like blah, 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 blah. It's not, I'm not where I want to be. It's like, what if you just decided this is a part of like a bridge of incidents? Like you have to have when you set on a like a goal and a plan, you're going to have a journey on the way to get there. Like you're not going to just go, I want to have a multi-million dollar business and wake up tomorrow and that's what it is. It's like you're gonna have stumbling blocks. Like I used to beat myself up, but when I set up this course, like I'm doing all my web stuff. And when I originally set it up, the person who signed up for it, she was like, I can't pay. So then I'm like going in there trying to figure out. I was like, oh yeah, you can't. Like, so I was like, okay, well, let me see. Shit's gonna go wrong. Like, it's not gonna be perfect. And then that's how you learn and grow from it. And as long as you're okay with that, instead of thinking it has to be perfect, and like, if you talk to anybody who's really successful, they'll tell you a million different things went wrong. And if you just accept that as like, instead of thinking this is failure, or this is it, I'm not meant to do it, or you're just like, this is a part of the bridge of incidents. This is a part of the journey. It makes it okay. I just feel like everybody needs to stop being so hard on themselves, because the way I'm seeing it, it's like, no, you're going to get there. You're fine. It's like you're blowing it up to be bigger in your head than what it is. In 6 months with your spouse, I feel like she's going to be a lot more comfortable with like knowing exactly where she's at, like headspace around her own personal stuff that's going on. I'm going to leave it as vague as I can for you. You know what I'm talking about. And I feel like then your energy starts to settle in more and be okay with it. But you're really, really empathic and really sensitive, and you're picking up on a lot of her uncertainty about what's going on with herself. And so it like automatically puts you on like heightened alert. So I feel like as she starts to settle in, you start to like, your energy starts to relax quite a bit. Okay. I don't know. Do you want any more clarity on that? Does that feel like a reading to you? Regine, if you have your question, why don't you let me know? Otherwise, Laura, if you perfect, Regine. Look at you. You're basically telling me to chill, that I'm fine, we'll be fine. Yep. Yep. Abso-freaking-lutely. That's what I'm doing. And you know what? Sometimes we need to hear that. Like, we need someone to go, it's all good. It's all good. And like, luckily, I will say, like, my guides of this last week, when you guys are talking about them, like, there's something going on too energetically, because I've like had like a little bit of confidence issues. And I'm like, oh, why am I? This is like not. And it's, my guides are like, this is just a part of the journey. Stop like thinking that this has ruined everything. It's just, this is a step. This is a part of the journey. What's your question, Laura? Oh, I definitely need to put that in there. It's a full moon. Yep. Very true. So KK said, it's a full moon and any emotions we have are enhanced. So a little lack of confidence may feel much bigger these days. Okay, Laura, what's your question, dear? Or did you type it in your thing? Hang on. Let me double check. I have no idea why HBO gives me sports alerts. I would like to say this, I give the Max app. But if anybody's wondering, Pittsburgh Penguins, they're in overtime. Like, I am not the demographic for that. But if you're wondering, I mean, I like watching hockey. It's fine, whatever. But I'm not. I don't watch it. Like I'll go to a game. Like I've gone to friends' games in college, but he's definitely not something I turn on and watch. I don't watch a ton of TV, to be honest. Um, what the fuck am I doing here? This is what I'm doing. Sorry. Hello, brain. Oh, I was looking to see if Laura's. Oh, you're typing it. Okay, sorry. I'm impatient. And you guys can get ready with your general questions if you have any general questions you want to ask. So there's like you guys, did you anybody see like how Princess Kate? Hang on. Oh, this is your second. Wait, is this your second question? Yes. This? Yes. Yes. Okay. What do I see coming your way in the next 3 months? What does that mean? Give me a second. Okay, I don't think like a landslide is going to actually happen to you, so I want to say that when I say this. But I see it like the way they're showing me is like earth falling out from underneath you. I don't think the literal like I don't think you're going to have like a sinkhole or anything like that. But it's a feeling of having things that are no longer solid or whatever are going to start falling away. So it's going to seem like things are just like all these negative, horrible things are happening. Like these people are falling away. These things are not going out, whatever. And it's like they're showing me that like that's falling away for you to build a stronger foundation. So the next 3 months might feel a little bit kind of like things falling away. When we start manifesting and we start asking for new and better things in our lives, things have to end. So like I told you, my friend, where it was like, she's like, I haven't been making a lot of money. Things are terrible here. I think that I'm cursed. I'm like, well, you wanted this manifestation. And sometimes, like I said, if you were making really good money, you wouldn't leave the location you're at to move and take this other opportunity. You would stay where you're at because you were doing really well. So sometimes when we make that manifestation for something really good to come in, like this other stuff has to fall away in order for that to happen. So it feels like, I'm going to get to you, Laura. It feels like really and truly over the next 3 months, it's like there's going to be a lot of fall away for you. But like when that's happening and as it's happening, if you can remind yourself and tell yourself, like, this is okay. This is a part of the bridge of incidents to these things coming in, to your businesses and to your wealth coming in and all of that. If you can just hold tight and sit through that. Because I feel like, what is April, May, June, mid-June is like there's going to be some people coming in that are like going to be more in alignment business wise with what you're wanting to do. And not that they'll be partners, but like as you surround yourself with people with in the like life that you want to be in, the good stuff start like it's more in alignment with who you're stepping into rather than the person that you were. Did that rambling make any sense? Okay. I'm an intuitive empath. I would love your insights about a connection I've been in for a few years, either since high school and reconnected a few years ago. We are older. You're very welcome, Joseph, Regine. I don't know why I was going to call you Josephine. What is the name? I know the last name is Joseph, but Josephine. Years ago, we were older. I'm 58 and he's 62. Is it worth saving? What is his first name? Could I have that, please, Laura? I don't really care about anything else, just his first name. So I don't want a birth date or anything like that. I'm going to turn my heater on. I'm just a tiny bit cold. So let me plug it in. You hear my hip pop? That's 45 for you. Little hip pop. And a butt bump in that. Okay. Just giving you guys a play-by-play of the sounds you might be hearing. I have to like slide in between this tiny little desk. Patrick. Okay. All right. Let's see. Svetlana, these are paid readings. And so there you refer for Pat. Okay. So these are paid readings, are $12. I donate 30% to the Community Food Bank of New Jersey. And then as soon as I'm done with the personal readings or whatever, then we move into just general, and they're free. And you can ask about, current events, things like that. Sorry. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. I want to reread this again. Okay, let's see. Pat and Laura. I'm going to give you some random information that I'm connecting with yours just to see if I'm connecting with the right energy as I'm okay. And then I'll let you know. So I think this might be his stuff. I have a really tight pain over this eye. It's literally right where my fingers are at. But I felt like this squeeze in my chest a little bit. That's why I coughed. As far as health issues for him, I'm leaning towards him having. I know this isn't what you were looking for, but it's a way for me to connect into the energy to figure out if I'm in with the right personality before I start spewing that. He's definitely got some cardiac stuff going on, and I'm trying to figure out. It's like I heard blood pressure, but I also feel like there's a blood sugar issue as well too. Does he have a history of angina, chest pains? But it's not a cardiac, like a heart attack. Does any of this resonate when I'm saying this, Laura? For Pat? I'm also leaning towards, this is strange, not that you're aware of. I would, does he go to the doctor regularly? I keep seeing a man that has a slight reddish tone, so he'd be fair, but has a slight redness to his, or pinky to his skin. I also keep seeing I'm standing on a beach and looking off at the sunrise. I keep feeling a connection to Florida. I don't know why. Sorry, I'm chewing this. It's really loud and it's annoying, but it becomes a bad habit when I have these in my mouth. Sometimes I chew them. Watch this then if he's not complaining about it, because I'm just feeling all of this. So I just feel like I'm not getting it I should break up with him kind of thing. I just feel like if you're expecting a change for him, all of a sudden becoming emotionally available and thoughtful, I don't feel that happening. And it feels more disappointing and devastating to you because you're I've known him forever. He was so fun and da da da. It's but he settled into kind of not being more emotionally developed than the kid you grew up with. He lives on a lake with a small private beach. Okay, because I'm like, I keep seeing like a beach. Is Florida make sense at all? I don't know why Florida kept kind of coming up. Or is he on the East Coast? It's sort of this feeling of not being very introspective and aware of how his behavior affects other people. He used a son trip in St. Croix diving trip with his son. Maybe that's it. St. Croix in Florida. I have no idea. Hello, I live under a rock in a bubble. I don't want to say it's not worth saving. You lived in Florida for 4 years before you moved back to Colorado. Okay. I'm not going to say like, oh, it's not worth saving. I just feel like it's kind of one of those things of like, can you accept him for who he is? Because I don't feel like he's not one of these guys that's going to make the change of becoming really emotionally in tune and advanced. And I'm not saying like, I don't feel like, oh, he's a total narcissist. So I want to be really clear on that. Like a lot of times people are like, oh, that means he's this or that. Like, I don't feel that at all. I just feel like, and I don't feel like he's an evil, horrible man. I just feel like he's not really emotionally evolved. And I know you probably want to hear like, oh, he's going to grow and he's going to like figure out who he is. And like the world is changing and men are starting to listen and all of that. And colonialism is dying. And so men are going to get better. But I don't feel like every one of them is. And again, I don't feel like, oh, he's evil. I just feel like not emotionally evolved, not really self-reflective, just kind of like wants to keep stuff like on the surface, doesn't want to have to delve into the emotional stuff because he doesn't even know how to deal with his own emotional stuff. He sort of even dismisses his own emotional stuff. Well, we just didn't have that, so that's the way it was. Like, so it's not, I don't want to say like, don't do it. It's like if you can accept that that's who he is, then stay in the relationship. But if what you're really desiring, and I totally understand what you're really desiring because it's not a lot, I don't feel like he's the man for you or the partner. I feel like he's got like I feel like he makes you laugh. He's got a good sense of humor, but at the end of the day, maybe he's not enough to be in a romantic relationship with him. I do think he needs to watch his health, though, to be honest. Okay. I think some of you dropped off, probably ready for bed. All right, so let's if anybody has any general questions, otherwise we'll call it a day and I will head to a store near here to look for take my daughter to look for, they're doing an invention convention. She's in first grade. So she's created this thing and she needs a pencil sharpener for it, but it has to be purple. And she wants to go with me to pick it up. So I was like, I'll go tomorrow while you're at school. And she's like, I want to go. So we have to go to Staples or Target or something and find an eraser for her invention. You're very welcome, Laura. Hi, Debbie. There you are. Oh, I was going to say this thing about Kate Middleton. So I saw something earlier, and it was somebody showing that they thought that video was AI of her announcing the cancer and why they thought it was AI. I don't know. I don't know that this is psychic. I have to be honest with you. But, when you're diagnosed so young with cancer, if it's abdominal, right? So that's either going to be, and originally I said I thought there was a colostomy. There's some kind of something with her intestine. So, but either way, and no matter which one it picks, intestine, ovarian, or uterine, right? That's really bad if she's only 42. It's not a great long-term prognosis. That's not psychic. That's just me looking at knowing those things. If she had breast cancer, again, it's usually when you're younger, it's a more aggressive form. I really don't want to say what I'm getting because I don't feel like it's, there's something that happens when she's 45. So I don't know, but I don't know. I don't want to, I'm not 100% on it. And I feel like there's so much weirdness around it. You aren't convinced. I'm not. I'm not. See, here's the thing. If it's AI, my feeling is it's not I want to be oh, she's dead already, but it's it means she's sicker than they're wanting to really discuss about it. And if is actually cancer and it wasn't that, this is me logicking around it because I don't, what I'm feeling into it doesn't feel great. There's the next 5 years are not going to be great for that family. And someone asked if they were going to continue being, I was I still just see them as being more of a tourist attraction and not so much more than that. So money may shift to where they're not getting so much money. And intestinal is not great, especially if you're young. I mean, so for Drake Bell, the guy got jail and all of that. So, there's so many kids within that. The more and more I see of it, I'm oh my God. And my friend's son is a child actor and she's always made comments she's very, very protective of him. And she runs his social media and she's there's so many, she's you wouldn't believe how many creepy people are. She's I'm very, because she asked something she'll ask about pictures. What do you think of that? I'm well, this can be taken this way. And she's oh yeah, I never thought of that. We are very, she'll look at me because we realize there's a lot of creepy people, but before I understood it, I was always I don't know, she's so neurotic about it, but she's neurotic about it for a reason. I have to say this. I don't know that there is true justice for somebody's pain ever. Like when somebody is essayed or whatever, however you want to terminology it, is there true justice? Like, no, because you have to live with that trigger and trauma for the rest of your life. Like, you will never be able to go through the world just feeling like like you never feel safe. There's just a ton of stuff with it. So, like, even if somebody goes to jail or you get a money payout, like, does that really justify it or make it like okay and take the pain away? Never. Um, they're not together. And I don't feel like they plan to get together. Do you know who that Ruby Frankie lady is? I didn't know anything about it. I just like sometimes like when it's blown up really big, then it comes across my feed. I'm not like a first person to see those kind of things because I don't really follow any of that stuff. I don't follow mommy bloggers. Anytime any of them come up on my website, if they involve their kids, I immediately block them because I don't want any content of somebody else's children on my feed. I don't want to give attention to people who use their children in videos. I think it's like totally fucked up to use your kids as content. Like, find another way to make your money. Like, it's different if you're like talking about parenting, but when your kids actually start becoming part of the videos and stuff, like I'm like, no, negative. But that stuff is so horribly disturbing and heartbreaking. Will there ever be a female pope? No. I think the Catholic Church will completely dissolve before there'll be a female pope. What do spirits have to say about their lunar eclipse and its effect on people? And yes, I've had to stay away with Ruby thing, but I'm aware of it. It's so awful. And even like, like all of that, like there's going to be a lot more people exposed in the next 3 years. There's going to be big shifts. I also think all of the exposure that's happening with the types of people that are in business, like in Hollywood and really anywhere access to kids, but in Hollywood specifically, there's going to be big changes and policy changes within that area as well, to actually protect children. A 5.5 million house they were in and yet abused instead of what should have been a paradise for children, for sure. I mean, there's so many things where I'm like, that woman honestly should be just eaten alive by bugs or hung to dry and like picked apart while she's like, just the worst, most imaginable, slow, painful death should come to somebody like that, as far as I'm concerned. And maybe that makes me not very spiritual, but that's how I feel. Okay, sorry. Spirits have to say about the eclipse, and let me see. So my guides are funny. They're like, would you just open up to the possibility of this? And I was like, okay, fine. Because they know I tend to be like way more practical about things. I'm like, yeah, well, you could create things. So what they're saying is like my head just felt so much like expansion of my ears and stuff. So it's more about like the energy of everybody coming together. It's not so much that they're saying like in reality, like that action of one planet moving in front of the other for a second does not really do anything. It's it is the belief systems that it's carried for so long, and such a large mass amount of focus on it, especially now where there's the the prediction and the intensity of it, where that's not always been the case, like on a mass global event of like people coming from all over the world to come to these events and things like that. So because there's such mass attention and energy focused on it, it carries more energy with it, if that makes sense. um, the way they're saying is not literal, like a literal gateway or portal, but it's like the opening of a gateway or portal so that um, people are more in tune with themselves. And the things that are coming when they talk about awakening, it's not like people becoming spiritually awake. It's about people becoming very aware of what's going on in the world and how it's been run. So taking the blinders off, no longer believing all of the propaganda. And it's literally like they're showing me like this moment, um, and many to follow are like a freight train that's not going to stop. So it's like people are going to continue to see. So this coming together actually like amplifies that. Like they're showing me like um, not just the third eye opening, but like deepening and widening. And also the crowd where people are like, there's something going to happen with the government, and la la la, and like because there's going to be National Guard and all that other stuff posted in the different towns. That's really just about like really genuinely, that's like just about order. Like when they're like, make sure you stock up on food, it's really just because they don't know how. Like there are small towns, a lot of these are getting smaller towns are getting hit with a huge number of people. And there's not like it's a supply and demand issue. It's not a conspiracy. There's nothing going on. You're very welcome. I mean, there is prosecution happening with people within the Catholic Church, but the Vatican has deep pockets and hands within a lot of stuff. So it's happening at like more local levels. I know for sure in Chicago, I had a cousin. So like I know in Chicago, they're doing things in other areas, but it's not like um, I mean, they have very deep pockets. They own a lot of property. So, and that all stays within the church. And there's a lot of secrecy. But no, I don't think they'll ever fully be found out. Not for a while. Um, any other questions? Just gonna put some of this on my music, Lily. I'm not baffled that like, rich people can be fucked up too. Um, I mean, look at Paris Hilton. Like, if you like, I don't. It's like I don't watch a ton of TV, but whenever I catch stuff, I'm like, oh, that's like her story about going into like she got whatever that kids thing is where they would like kidnap them and then send them away to like their parents were thinking they were getting disciplined and really was just like a super screwy way to pull for money from these rich people. And like, I would not be surprised if Paris Hilton is neurodivergent, specifically autistic. And even when I watch her, like just the short interactions I've seen, her mother, I swear, is a malignant narcissist. Her sister's not, I don't like her sister at all. So I don't know. Julie has a question at the top. Okay, thanks. Oh, okay. like, so it's like you have all the opportunities, but it doesn't mean that you've done the emotional work to heal yourself. And sometimes some of those people become really rich. Like look at Jeff Bezos, because they have no morals or this compass of like it doesn't like stick to their head of like I can stand on the backs of other people and like screw people into the ground just so I can make more money. Like they don't, and it's not every rich person, but like, so when you think like, oh, it's like, yeah, but not everybody does good with their money. Like the people who own Patagonia, they're fabulous. They have lots of money. They're, they're making sure things are being done right. But like somebody like Jeff Bezos is a psycho. Pat inherited a substantially large amount of money. And it doesn't mean that they do what's right or get the help that they need to like heal the stuff. They just like, I mean, ideally, you have a lot of money, you've healed and you've gotten through it and you've done it. Or you decide to heal eventually, right? I don't know. Huh. What's the religious word? I do have a couple words blocked. I don't remember what. And I think it was like, I don't remember why I blocked the words. Is there a way to write it? Maybe instead of writing it as a word, write it as a letter, space, letter, space, letter, space. Can you do that, Julia? Oh yeah, or put a symbol in it. Inquiring minds want to know. Sorry, I had to put some blocks up. Yeah, I get all of these like sports notifications on HBO Max. I don't know why. Sorry, I'm like looking at this. Oh, okay. What about it? I think your question's being blocked too. Um, I really hate that this mirrors because then I'm like, this is the wrong side of my head. So when I see it, I'm like, oh no, this is the hair I want to fix. Okay. All right. So it's about that. What's the question? Can you write the question without that, or just put the lamb in there for that question, or what the word is? My daughter, so they had the ice skating party yesterday. And my little one was so funny. She's like, I'm so thirsty because they hadn't brought the food and the drinks in the room yet. So I was like, okay, I'll go get you water or whatever. Because I was like, well, here, you have a sip of mine really quick. And I put Celtic sea salt in mine. She's like, oh, it tastes weird. It really doesn't, whatever. But she noticed, and so I had to go get her water. But it was like funny. I just thought about that, telling a story to like randomly save, take up some time here while we're waiting for the question. JonBenét Ramsey, will the person responsible be revealed this year? I heard yes. But I also feel like it doesn't really matter because they may have already passed or they're already in jail. There's already something that it doesn't really matter. You're chiming out. All right. Have a good night. Wow. Oh, I would love that. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us, Laura. Okay. Will we have a female president in 2032? Yeah, I actually think we'll have one in 2028. Julia, what's your question about, though? Like, what's about the lamb thing? Can you type it with a lamb in it? Like, so you'll write the question instead of saying you just put lamb, and I'll know the word that's supposed to be there. I have to tell you, since I started eating for insulin resistance and stuff, my hairline is coming back. Because before it used to go back here, you could see my scalp and stuff. So I'm telling you, insulin resistance is the way to go. Eating for it. I think YouTube are blocking all my questions. Ugh, so rude. You can email them to me. I don't fully know that he'll make it all the way to the end. There's some health issues that are coming up for him. I really don't see him being president. I know I've said it before, but we're going to see some shifts coming in. And you're really not putting anything crazy? Well, you know, I really don't see Trump being in there. Clear the browsing history, it might help. Can you guys see the questions, or is it just, oh, yeah. Is that Korean president's sister really, what? What do you mean, really, boss? I don't understand the question. What about him? What does really boss mean? Like, is she really in charge and he's just like a figurehead? Oh. Um, no, but I do feel like they work together. So I don't feel like she's really in charge and he's just a figurehead. I feel like they do really work together. It's more, she's has more say than maybe people realize. What are your thoughts about the people who seem not to care about the brutality and engineered starvation that is happening right now? Like the people closing their eyes to it. So I've said this from the very beginning that I think that we're going to end up on the wrong, like the United States is going to end up on the wrong side of history as far as everything that's going on over there. My mom and I were talking about this, and it was interesting. She's like, "Oh, I don't really understand what's going on." I was like, "You should really read the history. It's like pretty like disturbing, actually. It's really obvious." We were talking about how, like, I was like, it always seems like, though, like every terrible thing that comes down to it's like somebody making money or some kind of real estate deal. And she said, like, she had a kid, one of her students, like, was like, "Oh, do you think they're going to be a World War III, blah blah blah." And she's like, "They're not going to have a nuclear bomb." She's like, because nobody can make any money off of that. And like somebody was like, "Oh, Putin's threatening to have a nuclear bomb go off in um, the Ukraine," and I'm like, he won't do that because he wants the land, because there's something, and I don't know what the, if it's cobalt, I don't remember what the, or cesium, I don't know, whatever it is for batteries, that's like in high levels there. I think that that's what it is there. I can't remember if it's out of oil, but I'm almost sure it's like for batteries like that they use in cars and stuff, and lithium batteries. And like, if you bomb it with a nuclear bomb, then you're not going to be able to use the land. So like, he's not going to do that. I mean, I would like, obviously I think those people that can't even see it and that are okay with it are awful human beings, but their motivation is the pack, and you know what I'm talking about, has basically everybody. I'm like literally seeing it like hands on walls. Like that's what I'm seeing. So they have information on them. It's not just about when people are like, oh, they give them donations so they're in their pockets. It's not just about that. I feel like they have information on them. Hi, Larry. Welcome, welcome. So, and the people that are gleeful about it, they're getting paid. Like when everything first started happening, I was like, what's valuable here? Like, what are they looking for? What's valuable here? That's my first initial question. Like, what does that stand to gain by taking over this? And I don't care what they're making it look like. What do they really stand to gain? And there's land, there's oil, and there's a new shipping route. Like, there's a lot of money that they stand to like take over and power. Julia's question's at the top. I don't see it. Hang on. Let me fix something. Hang on. Let me fix something and see if I can find it now. There's a little boy that just recently passed, and when they showed him, he looked just like a Holocaust victim. And I thought, if people cannot see that, like, how do we starve people to death? Like, it's horrific what's happening. I don't see your question. Can someone else type Julia's question and see if it works? Oh, wait, here. Do you see a big religious group infiltrating any countries to try and pressure everyone to change it? I mean, look at the United States. Look at what's happening in especially the red states right now. That is a big religious group infiltrating a country and trying to take over it. And they've been doing it for a long time, and the way they're setting up, it's I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Trump got paid off in order to get the very Republican judges in. And he's so freaking nearsighted and selfish and like all about himself that he doesn't care, because he's like, it'll never affect me. Was the French president's wife a man? Oh, I've never heard that. I don't believe so, no. And even if she was, who cares? But I don't think so, no. They also said, what's her name was a man? Michelle Obama. Is that Macron? Is that his name? She was not a man. Period. I actually feel pretty quickly. I don't feel like it's that far out. I keep getting a 3. I would say within the next 3 cycles. But you won't know about it for a while. It might take about 6 months for you to know about it. Yes. That and other things like I keep seeing furniture and things like that. Yes, absolutely. She took their money. I didn't even know who that Alana Thompson was until you said Mama June, and I never watched that, whatever that show is with her and her kids. What's the girl's name? Baby something. I don't know. I never watched that show. So like when you say the names, I'm like, oh, I don't know who that is, but so I just listen to the words. When I was younger, I would watch things like, like I watched for a little bit but not like religiously or anything, but I would watch it if it was on, if I came across it, like the John and Kate plus 8 or what's that, the Duggar family thing? You know, that I have 85,000 kids. Oh, Allie, are you asking another question? I'll let you get away with it this time, but then, um, but then normally when I'm in this section, I don't answer any more questions. So, but now as a grown up who has kids, I'm like, oh, it's just so messed up that people like, and I watched the Little People Big World, but just like putting your whole families on there and like every experience and then just all the stuff that they put kids through. And I don't know, like let them be little kids. Allie, did you have another question? Is Mama June hobosexual husband user? uh, yes. I mean, energetically, they're sort of on the same wavelength. So it's not like he's not attracted to her because energetically they're on the same wavelength. But I definitely think there is a mooching aspect to it. What would your guides advise? I'm giving you your money back. Allie! We already talked about it. So this is what they're saying. I said it differently, but it's essentially the same thing. It's like dust yourself up, dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and hold your head high. Holding yourself to such a precision, or to such a pinpoint perfectionistic idea of like what makes a good person is harming only you. And it's also harming the world and not allowing everybody to see like this wonderful light that really exists within you. As you step into like changing your self-concept, it's like shedding an old snake skin. You don't look at a snake when they shed the skin and like be like, oh, you're trying to be something else. Oh, how dare you not hold on to that and really hold yourself accountable. You're like, oh no, the snake shed its skin. And it's sort of like that's what you have to look at doing the affirmations as, is shedding your own old skin. Like you don't need to carry that weight anymore. And as you step into your new self, it's not like you're going to be this totally different being, but you're going to move through the world a little lighter with a little bit more grace and ease, and stop denying yourself the ability to do that and thinking that you're supposed to punish yourself somehow. He said it's okay to not be perfect and be happy. What makes you arrogant? I don't think she's going through an early midlife crisis. I think midlife crisis is an interesting term. Again, now that I'm older, I'm like kind of looking at it, I think it's people just going, I don't align with that person that I was. I'm stepping into something new, or I want to like not miss out and sort of like taking a hold of advantage. I don't think that she's crazy. I think that she's always been quirky, and is more comfortable with sharing her quirkiness with the world instead of like worrying about so much about what other people's opinions are. How is that arrogant putting up boundaries? So I'm saying I'm not like trying to be like a silly you, but it comes from like when I didn't have boundaries, setting boundaries was really hard, and I felt like I was being mean or terrible by setting boundaries. And yet when I got into perspective of like if someone's asking you to do something and set aside all of your stuff to like help them and do things for them, like you're sacrificing yourself all the time for other people when you're a people pleaser. Setting boundaries isn't about other people. It's about you going, what am I willing to really tolerate? And if somebody crosses those boundaries, it's like getting that really clear in your mind about like, and if they cross that boundary, what am I going to do about it? Will I have to create distance between me and that person? Maybe social distance, like, like if I see them, I only see them under these circumstances, or actual physical distance or emotional distance where you kind of cut them off. Well, if you think that you have to be, I mean, there is a sense of perfectionism, right? I don't know. Okay. Okay. And then I think this is the last question, just because my shoulders are getting really tight. I'm kind of getting uncomfortable. You're very welcome, Allie. Megan Thee Stallion really passed around the industry. Yeah. Have a wonderful week. Get some sleep, Julia. I feel like there's a lot more of that than people realize. And some people accept that as a part of a way for them to actually get any kind of momentum in their career. I do feel like there are things that are going to be changing within the industry, especially when you have, there are women standing up and women who are creating production companies and kind of making their own films and stuff. So that sort of changes some stuff. There's still some dynamic with some of them that's a little bit of power dynamic, but then there's also other people. I know Ryan Reynolds has something, it's like an equity group to like bring more equity within the space. I can't remember what it's called. Creative Ladder, I think. So there's people like that who are already are well known enough that are willing to stand up. Sorry, I'm just like, it's when it mirrors and I'm like, I don't know where my hair is going. So I think things are changing as, things are being called out and making momentum and moving forward, and the old guard is leaving, kind of thing. That's my thoughts. All right. Yes, I have to go get a purple pencil sharpener. Good night. Y'all have a good one. I'll see you next week. And if anybody's interested, I have private readings. I have one question readings. And then I also have the psychic development circle coming up. Okay. Have a good one.